been introduced, we'll straight come to the point. We need to keep it within 30 minutes available. It's a great mix of roles that we have in this panel. One of the rare that you get in the panel. Here is a consultant, here is head of engineering, and there is a head of testing and commissioning. You rarely get this combination in a panel. So when we talk about automation, Ashwin, I'll start with you. In the flow, you come first as a consultant, so I'll start with you. Data centers have to be automated because all the streams that create the need for data centers, they come out of, in a way, automation and digitalization. So the data center has to be digitalized, has to be automated to serve those streams of market. So when we talk about automation, I see that as few pillars. In a way, they stand separately by themselves, and in a way, they synergize, they connect. One is design, second is construction, third is testing, commissioning, and fourth is the operation life cycle. So you, as a consultant, when you see automation as an animal, how do you see it across these 4 or 5 verticals?
Yeah, I think you summarized this great. Automation is an extremely important system that runs across these 4 pillars. Design, construction, testing and commissioning, as well as operations, because right from the start, at the point wherein the project is conceptualized, we start working very closely with the client to understand their basic requirements, and then internally with the HVAC and the electrical subject matter experts to understand the sequence of operations that they are putting across in their designs for the respective engineering systems. So the automation system that we put in place has to ensure that it is in sync with the HVAC and electrical designs, to ensure that the relevant power usage effectiveness, the water usage effectiveness parameters are met by either controlling and monitoring, or either which way. Not only that, in terms of the actual testing and commissioning, the testing and commissioning engineers need to use that tool as a reflection of what is happening when the testing is happening. So it's a extremely wonderful tool to get real time information while testing a specific sequence for a particular product, or even during the IST, you can get the IST results immediately, directly on your iPads if they're connected onto the system. Operations-wise also, automation system plays perhaps the most important role, more than perhaps design, construction, testing. Operations is something where you really, juice out the sugarcane called as automation, because this is where you will come to know of impending maintenance issues, impending failure issues, how to improve upon efficiencies, how to ensure that the target PUEs and the WEs are met, and the data center still maintains a cutting edge in terms of delivering the best value to the customer and ensuring continued business to the data center. So automation, though it looks as till now perhaps was taken as a also ran system, but now people have really understood that it runs across a majority of the construction process and the operation processes that happen in a data center.
Absolutely, very well summarized. So coming to you, Prafulla, now you and him as a consultant many times sit across the table. Sometimes you have to sit on one side of the table because it's working together, and you have to satisfy each other's requirements also, right? He's a customer, you're a service provider. So you have to collaborate, and you have to get work done. You have to communicate, you have to get convinced or convinced. So how do you play this cat and mouse with him in your role?
In fact, without collaboration, the automation is not at all possible. Increasing the basis of design from the customer requirement. What exactly the customer needs. That needs to be jotted down. So what exactly the requirement is there, we need to explain it to the consultant, get the confirmation from the consultant whether you understood the requirement or not. If that is in sync, then only go for the detailed designing, or designing the system architecture, or the list of equipment, SIO summary, the control logics, all the detailed designing related readiness. If you are ready with that, then create the graphics, the navigation of the graphics, how the representation will look like. If it is ready, then go for the testing and commissioning activities. Directly jumping on the testing and commissioning activities will not serve, and even identifying the sequence of operations. So what are the test scenarios? What are the failure scenarios possible? Identifying the risk. If this fails, what happens? If that fails, what happens? What will be the sequence of, what will be the output of that the logic? So in that direction, in the 360-degree view, we have to look at, and then go for the testing and commissioning activities and look at what the customer requirement given, what design, and whether it is running as per the expectation or not. And if it is working fine, then we can go and hand over to the operation. And it's not only to the handover of operation. There are maybe possible scenarios that not identified during testing and commissioning, but may come during operation. We don't know. So, what is the mitigation plan for that? If whether the system design is a fail-safe operation, having the fail-safe mode on that, if the uncertain or unidentified scenarios occurs, so how the system will perform? Whether the system, the automated system, have any manual bypass or manual override option on that. So all that angles should be captured right from the beginning, that is phrasing the basis of design and then detail designing, concept designing, and during the testing and commissioning. So here all the three pillars are here. So in individual, it's not only one's consultant responsibility or a testing and commissioning responsibility, or even the end user, my responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility that each and every part, right from the starting to the during operation, the collaborative and all the detailed communication should happen, and it should be seamless transfer.
Right. So, taking one link from what both of you spoke and using my own little experience. One is you would like all the systems to be as much agnostic as possible so that you have flexibility, you have retrofitability and all that. The second is we also talk about transactional versus partnership, strategic. And strategic essentially means partnership, which is long term. So you have to commit certain platforms, certain OEM, your methodology of automation. So how do you balance between this being agnostic vis-a-vis long-term working on some platform or vendor?
Make a system simple, easy to understand, easy to implement, and make a standardization. Just copy paste for one site, second site, third site. How many sites are there? So who are the operator, who are the designer or the contractor? They will be easy to implement, and of course. After the handover, the operation team also will be comfortable to operate that without any issue. So make a modular design and make a standardization. That will be the key requirement for that.
Right. Anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I think you use the word agnostic, so just wanted to elaborate a little bit on that aspect. Is that yes, you're right. In the earlier infrastructure, earlier architectures for the building automation, there used to be a lot of tie downs. So for example, if you tie down to a particular product or a particular protocol or a particular company, you have to go back to the same company or the same product to ensure long time continuity. I think this has been the ask of the industry for a very long time to be product agnostic, whether south side or north side. When I say south and north, basically north is more towards the IT and towards the server and the application. South is more towards the actuators, the sensors and the controllers themselves. So on both sides there has been an ask from the industry for a very long time to be as open as possible to ensure that multiple systems can work together in one environment. And I think building automation products are now getting more mature because now we are not restricting ourselves to only a particular architecture of the product. We have got multiple architectures available, including time-tested, industry-driven, architecture which come from manufacturing. Because you see, what happens was that you handle far more complex and far more critical processes in the industry, and the products that have already been hardened, time-tested over there are now getting used in the data center industry. So yes, there is a far more availability of product agnostic, protocol agnostic platforms now, which we regularly recommend to our customers and deploy in various levels.
Great, thanks. Now, Zoyeb, coming to you, what is different in your role, your life, compared to them both, is you possibly are the last link of project execution team and the first link or a pre-link to the operations, right, in the handover. So two quick things. How's your experience on both sides? Because you're talking on one side to the operations and you're supposed to do testing, commissioning, hand over the site clean, glitchless. So to what extent and from what point in time do you start getting clarity as to what system it is, what testing protocols, what are you supposed to do? Do you wish that your involvement starts right in the design stage so that you are very clear? Does it really happen, or do you get a lot of surprises when it comes to testing?
Yeah, actually you're right. I mean, our involvement starts right from the design stage, and we get into the reviews of the design. We also become a partner to the forum to discuss the challenges that is going to be faced during your commissioning and the operations, and we bring up all those points for the discussion, and jointly we get those points resolved, which in turn gets involved into your test scripts, into your CX summaries, then into your sequence of operations plans and into your IST scripts, where we call out all the different scenarios of different failure scenarios to simulate and to ensure that based on this automation the system is performing and meeting the design requirements. That's what the commissioning intent is. It's never that we enter into the middle of the project stage whether it is in construction. It would not be a kind of efficient commissioning when you enter in the middle of the project. It's always efficient when you enter at the start of the project so that you rightly bring out all the requirements of commissioning, and accordingly it is then executed till your IST.
Right.
So that's what I'm.
And do you think, does that really happen, or is it wishful for you that your early engagement really happens?
So I mean, in last 6-7 years, yes, now the market is slightly matured on testing and commissioning. Most of the, market is now totally aware of what the testing commissioning happens, how it happens, and the requirements are getting fulfilled. Now commissioning, we are entering during the initial stages. Back then, in past 10 years before, it was we used to just enter at the last stage of the project just to do the final commissioning, charging, and just handing over the project. But yeah, now the things are changing. Since the data centers, MEP, where this MEP infrastructure is a key for data centers, there. From that point of time, the commissioning aspect is totally got changed.
Great.
Yeah.
Ashwin, you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that for a consultant, the client is no more the only client. The testing and commissioning agency also is a client, because they do ask a huge lot of questions on the sequence of operations, especially with respect to the set limits of the parameters, etc., because they want it to be defined at day one to ensure that testing and commissioning gets done properly and the design intent is fulfilled in the entire process. So Zoyeb is right that they need to be involved from the very initial stages of the project to ensure that what we intend to design gets tested properly and gets implemented.
In a lighter way, and ask your contracts to keep a milestone payment to be certified by you of a consultant.
So actually, when
I will take care of that.
Yeah, when we say optimized automation, it actually comes from the parameters. How we will achieve this optimized automation is like when you have a right parameter set, when you have a right parameters for your chillers, for your triggering of your fuel automation systems and everything. That time is something where you are going to achieve this optimized automation. So it is important for us to enter in the design stage so that each and every parameters is discussed and understood right in the initial stage, so that commissioning also is driven in the right way, and then accordingly the operations handover is smoother and it's easier for them to take it over and control the site. Yeah.
So Ashwin, coming back to you, one of the most important parameters of data center is uptime, reliability, no failure, N rating and all that. So do you think automation plays a great role in making data centers more reliable, preventing failures, preventing single points, and the whole attempt now is to make everything from as and when, meeting it from surprise to proactive. Everybody would like to know about an event before it happens. So do you think automation is really there, or?
Yeah, and I think we touched this point at the start of the discussion also, is that automation is now playing a very important role, ensuring no single point of is SPOF, because what happens is that during the design stage itself, the electrical, mechanical, fire, life safety, security, everybody in their own silos have worked towards ensuring a SPOF document is created wherein they identify what is the single point of failure and a mitigation measure to that particular. And many a times automation is an part and parcel of the mitigation effort, because if system A fails, system B takes over. How does it take over automatically? Is because you've got sensors in both the delivery paths which are being monitored continuously on the automation front, and then it delivers the judgment to operate system B if system B A is not path is not available or the equipment is not available. But what is important is that while there is a single point of analysis that gets done thoroughly for the electrical, mechanical, and these systems, the automation system itself also has to undergo an SPO of analysis, because you cannot be dependent on an automation system that does itself has a point of failure. So then the whole purpose is lost. That's why I said that there are multiple multiple platforms that are available which are hardened, time tested, where you get redundancies on power, redundancies on compute, redundancies on the controllers themselves, though the last mile connectivity in terms of the, say for example, the SLA sensors. SLA sensors are basically the time stamp sensors which information is given directly to the client, for the client to understand in what environment his servers are kept at that point of time or at any instant of time. So there you can have redundant sensors put in to ensure that you are giving the right picture to your end client. But apart from that, by itself the platform needs to be very robust. So your controllers need to be redundant, power to those controllers needs to be redundant, network, those controllers should connect to the redundant networks going northwards. The servers that you have, whether you have an on-premise server or whether you have a cloud, it should offer redundancy. Redundancy should be such that it does not require a third-party application to make that availability. It should be built in. The application itself should be able to whether using virtual environment or a virtualized environment or by using an application level performance unit, it should be able to jump between system A and system B while ensuring that the data capturing and the data representation is not lost, controls are not lost. So there's a lot of SPOF analysis that needs to be done on the automation system itself.
Great. So, taking a clue from this and a fact that automation is a lot to do with technology, and technology today is changing so much. We often talk about appointing a a consultant who has a lot of experience. Engineering has to have a lot of experience, and you use experience from your recent project and previous project. So there is a wealth of experience. But if your circumstances are changing and they're changing so fast that your experience is getting deteriorated, multiplied by zero very fast, how do you upgrade? How do you upkeep with the change? Both of you particularly, because what both of you will create will get built. So how do you make sure that, let's say you had some design, some concept for a data center in your last project, and 2 years down the line you're designing another project, a lot of that would have changed. You would have newer avenues, newer technology, newer ways of doing things. How do you do that?
From the data control is separate thing, but data collection from the various equipments, the framing it in a different way, one set of data is required for the regular monitoring, one set of data is maybe required for the alarms and the abnormalities in the system. So sampling of that data and keeping that data in a different form, and maybe one set of data may be required, which may be required during the RC or after the failure incident. What are the chances of failures, or what are the abnormalities happen? So the segregation of these all data, keeping it in the different formats so that that can be used effectively. So that is one important thing we have to take care. And of course, as you said, the system is getting changed. My customer requirement is getting changed continuously. Like the electrical configuration gets changed. Earlier the MVDG sets we have been using. Now customer is asking to go with the LVDG sets. So the control and automation required for that is also getting changed. So that's upgradation of the system as per the requirement that will keep on happening. And of course the logic or the protections or the graphics and the failure scenarios or the maybe the control and automation redundancy itself apart from the electrical and HVAC system. So that redundancy and that system architecture will remain as a base. The basic infrastructure, basic redundancy expectation will remain as it is. Whatever the system change happens or the equipment specification, equipment rating change, but the basic requirement will keep happening. The expectation is highest availability, highest reliability, and the adaptability. So maybe you can add something.
Yeah, I think you are right that technology is changing. Technology is not just changing on the IT space, but also on the electrical and HVAC space. We saw SPLC, State Point Liquid Cooling System, when Mr. Jawur was presenting. So there is a huge lot of change that is happening in the data center space for HVAC as well as electrical. For example, the panels, electrical panels. Earlier we used to have a huge lot of cabling picking up points, hardwired points from individual, meters and to a box that was there on the wall. But now we move towards a era of smart panels, wherein you have only an IP output coming out of the panel and we pick up data directly. So there's a lot of change, and we as designers acknowledge that there's a lot of change, and we need to be always on our toes to know what is new and not fall back and ensure that
The obsolescence is so fast.
It's very fast, and we need to be always on the cutting edge to ensure that we know what is happening. So you're right. It's a process that is inbuilt into our everyday, day-to-day life. Education, continuous interaction with the industry is something that we always ensure we don't ever want to be in a position wherein the designs are one grade behind what the industry is asking for. So it's an effort that everybody has to put in.
And Zoyeb, despite of they doing all what they're doing, right,
Yeah.
in terms of designing, understanding
Correct.
the requirements, planning for it, do you still face blind spots, surprises when it comes to testing commissioning?
See, as I told you, since we enter into the design phase, that is the area when we try to get these things resolved initially itself. But I mean, since the way the development is going on, we also keep our engineers, on the learning curves continuously, so that we do not miss any of these things. And if anything is missed in the design, that is something that we try to take it up in the early stages. We don't wait until the construction stage to hit, and then we stuck up during your L3 commissionings when you do a startups and major commissioning activities for performance test and so on. So, so we try to avoid this blind spot. Yeah, but still the things will happen. But yeah, we are trying to keep our engineers trained to the level where they have the knowledge of all the upcoming new products, the new things happening in the market. As Ashwin rightly said that earlier there used to be individually energy meters, connections and all those things, connecting with DDCs and checking individual IO points. And now the things has changed. Everything fits into that single marshalling box of electrical panels, and you just have to test it through your 800 TCP IP cables and all. So we try to keep our engineers trained to the level so that we don't reach to the blind spots at the critical stage of the project, and we try to identify them at the early stage. Yeah, but we do identify some spots in the early stages.
Okay. We have about 5 minutes, so if any one of you would like to talk about any particular aspect, would emphasize anything of what you spoke. Otherwise, maybe some question answers.
Maybe we can go for questions.
We have about 6 minutes, maybe 2-3 questions we can do. No question. So you can take time and talk about any particular thing if you think an area is important to you.
Yeah, so automation, like the process industry or the manufacturer or the pharmaceutical industry, the level of automation there is very much the ifs and buts or the input data given there is on a very higher, wider range. Whereas in data center, we have the set electrical HVAC distribution, so input data generally remains fixed. So outcome expected from the control and automation remains also expected as a fix. Provided the abnormalities in the equipment, the predictive analysis is required. So that needs to be captured in the automation. Here the earlier, maybe 7-8 years back, we used to have the separate automation system, like the BMS system was a separate. The EPMS or the electrical monitoring and control system or the SCADA system was separate. Then the chiller plant manager was a separate. and of course the access control CCTV was a separate. Now that all integration and applying the one more control and automation on all these systems. That is one more thing the customer asks, or the even my operation team or my business team ask for that. So we are working on that as also. And by working on this control and automation on top of this all systems. So what are the as Ashwinji in the first session only explained. So scenarios, taking care of that and taking the operations input during that scenarios. So that needs to be taken care with the right from the beginning and till the handover. So that on that front, we are working closely with my vendors, my consultants, my testing and commissioning consultants, and right from beginning, I'm involving my operation team also, so that whether what I am designing, my consultant is designing, whether it is in line with your requirement or not, or whether you are understood the requirement, or whether it is in line with your operator or your operating team expectation or not. So all the graphics getting finalized in a day one. So it is not happening that after testing and commissioning, or when the site is ready to hand over, my operation team is changing the graphics as per their wish list. It's not happening now. I'm involving my operation team right now, freeze it right now, and then the seamless handover will happen.
Perfect.
So that input from my side.
Fantastic. And Ashwin, one point. Can automation also be used as, let's say there are different service providers, there are different organizations, and we always in business keep on looking for opportunities to create differentiators where I'm better than somebody else. So do you think automation is a big lever for any operator, any data center player to become differentiated by intelligent, better usage of automation?
Surely. I mean, I can't name the project, but there is a project that where we have delivered wherein there's a clear-cut differential that is delivered by the building automation system, wherein the end client is delivered data of his or her rack, which it's not only the environment data, but also the security data, also the operational parameters data, everything delivered on a single landing page. The client was so happy to receive such a data, because it gives him a bird's eye view of what is happening this was a co-location, not a hyperscaler, this was a co-location data center, but definitely it delivers, it can deliver provided the outcomes are well defined, the business cases are well defined, then the design can be put in such a manner that you can deliver those results. But coming back to your original question with respect to any specific point, I would like to touch upon something called as continuous commissioning, because what happens is that mostly we realize that there's a tender that comes out, someone bids for the tender, someone wins the tender, finishes, hands over, IST is done, everybody signs off, goes off, and then the poor operations team has to fight with what they have left with. So that is not something that is good. I believe the concept of continuous commissioning has to come in, wherein there has to be a long-term understanding with your commissioning partner or with your installation partner, that this is not just a job that ends at delivering the IST. It is something that you need to come back every quarter, every month, and ensure that the new needs, because data center, there's always something new that is happening. For example, if it's a co-location, one customer goes out, some other customer comes in, reconfiguration of the rack, reconfiguration of these sensors. So it is something that the data center players have to contend with, and if they enter into a continual commissioning contract with the service provider, it will really help them to ensure that they are still continuously maintaining the ship-shape standard that they got the data center when it was first commissioned.
Fantastic. You're spot on. 1 minute to go, we are done. If there are no questions, nothing more to add from our side.
Yeah, I think Ashwin covered about this continuous commissioning as well. But I think that is something can be taken up with the operations team as well. I think in the aspect, because they are the people who are on the ground who are every day handling the systems to manage. And sometimes it happens like for whatever the system is designed for, the system is not running at that loads. And that's why it boils down to it goes into a manual operation after a certain period of time, which needs to be educated to the team to handle that automation, and that automation needs to be designed in such a way that it is able to run the system at that minimal parameters to control the system, so that they are not running the systems into manually. So
Perfect.
that's what we have to look at. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.